Then we move on to our next item, which is the coastal development permit application for a temporary event with 7 days of free community events and a 2-day paid live music event to be held on Alamitos Beach, as shown in the presentation that's about to be up on the screen, in the downtown shoreline area of Long Beach from Monday, July 8th through Wednesday, July 17th, 2019. The co-applicants are the City of Long Beach, LiveNation Worldwide Incorporated, and Diversified Production Services, LLC. The project is located in an area that is accessible by public transit and other modes of transportation and provides the public with excellent coastal access opportunities and many different types of free and lower-cost recreational activities. Alamitos Beach is unique in that it is a very wide beach, which has accommodated other large commercial events and activities. It is considered uniquely appropriate for such uses given its close proximity to the city's event center and other visitor-serving commercial uses, including the Aquarium of the Pacific and the city's primary waterfront commercial center. The applicants propose to temporarily enclose approximately 625,000 square feet of public beach and park space for 10 days for the construction of a 490,000 square foot fenced-in temporary music stadium, an 85,000 square foot temporary sand sculpture exhibit and queuing area that will be open to the public, and a 25,000 square foot temporary skate park. The project would involve temporary relocation of the existing volleyball courts and temporary use of a portion of the Marina Green parking lot and park. All other parking lots in the vicinity would remain open to the public on a first-come, first-served basis. The proposed project would also include temporary construction of a box office, merchandise and medical tents, shade structures with picnic tables, a stage, audio, video, and lighting structures, and VIP and ADA seating. In addition, portable restroom facilities, a 51-foot high water slide, lockers, and barricades would be installed within the stadium. Food and merchandise trucks would be temporarily located within the project footprint. The primary issue raised by this application is the use of sandy beach areas otherwise available for public use for a private commercial activity, which results in potential impacts to public access and recreational opportunities. To partially offset these impacts, the applicants have worked with the commission staff to incorporate the provision of public recreational amenities into the proposed project, including 7 free days of public events and activities such as sand sculpting, skateboarding clinics and shows, beach volleyball, beach yoga, water safety demonstrations, and a welcome party that would be attended by the general public and city-run summer camps, youth participating in the city's drop-in program, which is a program offered at the city parks that provides free daycare during the summer, and low-income seniors. The applicants have a marketing and media plan that includes the use of social media outlets, emails, radio, and community outreach by the city, LiveNation, and Cascade, which is the proposed headlining artist. The applicants will highlight the free community events and strongly encourage attendees to walk, scoot, bike, or take public transit to the events. The 2-day music festival, with a stadium capacity of approximately 31,000 people, is a primarily paid event for adults over 18, with admission costs ranging from $125 to $450 for the 2-day event. The applicants are proposing to give away 5,000 tickets for each day of the music event. I would note that in June 2018, the Commission approved a similar project for a temporary community and live music event held on Alamitos Beach with 5 days of free community events open to the public and a 1-day live music event. The project included use of approximately 400,000 square feet of sandy beach and a contribution of $35,000 to a mitigation fund used to engage underserved youth in coastal access and recreation opportunities, including the All-City Beach Day, junior lifeguard scholarships, and free swim lessons. The city has indicated that most of the $35,000 mitigation fund was used to support public access and recreation opportunities, including 672 free swim lessons, 10 junior lifeguard scholarships, and admission of approximately 2,400 youth participants to the All-City Beach Day. In addition, the applicants provided most of the planned free community event activities, However, these events were not well attended as expected, in part because the proposed transportation to Alamitos Beach and provision of meals for underserved youth from the greater Los Angeles area were not implemented. The event organizers and city staff state that the failure to provide the required transportation and meals occurred because there was not enough time between the Commission's approval of the project and the event to do the outreach to potential participants. Therefore, the applicant undertook the development in non-compliance with the CDP. Commission staff has worked collaboratively with the city staff and other applicants to address the issues that occurred with the event last year and to assure that similar issues do not arise with this year's event. Some of the changes for this year's event include 2 additional free community days and an increase in the public access and recreation mitigation contribution from $35,000 to $150,000. Additionally, the timing of the Commission's hearing is 1 month earlier than last year, and the applicants have renewed their commitment to hold an event benefiting all members of the community. Over the years, the Commission has reviewed and approved temporary events requiring either 100% free admissions or limiting admission fees. If 100% free admissions were determined to be infeasible, in past permit actions, the Commission has approved temporary events that can provide at a minimum 75% of the provided capacity free of charge to the public or equivalent public benefit. In this case, the applicants have indicated that the provision of 75% free seating for the 2 days of concerts would not be feasible. However, the applicants and the Commission staff have coordinated closely to develop an alternative mitigation strategy for the benefit of underserved communities, which is proposed by the applicants in the form of 10,000 free concert tickets disseminated to the public and a proposal to fund $150,000 of programs providing populations in need of financial aid and or not otherwise able to regularly access the beach. Coastal access opportunities such as the All-City Beach Day, swim lessons at Long Beach public pools, sailing lessons at the Leeway Sailing Center, a Bayshore Recreation Day Camp, coastal resource tours, and scholarships for the Long Beach Junior Lifeguard programs. The applicants are required to submit a fund allocation plan, a public engagement plan, and a marketing and media plan prior to issuance of the permit that includes requirements to work with local community organizations to identify underserved populations, tailor marketing approaches to reach these communities, including the publication of marketing materials and signage in the language identified in the city's language access policy, implement programs consistent with the final approved plans, and report on the effectiveness of the plans. Furthermore, vertical and lateral access to the sea are protected through the maintenance of a 50-foot wide corridor between the sea and the event site, and open pedestrian and bike paths. As conditioned, the project will not have significant long-term adverse impacts on coastal public access and recreation. However, this project should not be used as a precedent for the types of temporary events allowed on sandy beaches statewide because of the unique characteristics of Alamitos Beach. In conclusion, as conditioned, substantial investment in public access and recreation programs geared toward providing underserved populations in Long Beach and surrounding areas with free coastal access and outdoor recreation outweighs the temporary impacts to coastal access and recreation on the portion of the public beach within the project vicinity. Thus, staff is recommending that the Commission approve the project subject to 10 special conditions. The motion and resolution to support the staff recommendation are on page 6 of the staff report, and staff is available for questions.
And if I could, I'd just like to add one additional note and take the opportunity to thank the city and Tom Modica, the Assistant City Manager, and Tasha Day, the Manager of the City's Special Events, for continuing to work with our staff cooperatively. As Danny explained, we worked with the city very hard last year to come up with an alternative mitigation plan for that normally requires 75%. And there were a few bumps, a few problems that occurred with the implementation due to some of the issues that Danny mentioned. So when this event came back to us this year, we took that deeper dive again with the city. And we think we've developed, with the city's help, a suite of new conditions. They have enhanced mitigation, additional monies, and mitigation measures that we think address those deficiencies. There'll be some increased monitoring. The goal is to ensure the success of the event and the public access mitigation and get some meaningful mitigation for this event. We think we've achieved that through this suite of conditions. So that's the new package that we're bringing to you this year. And with that, I'll end the staff presentation.
Thank you very much. Do we have an ex parte? Commissioner Ranga.
Thank you, Chair Bosco, and thank you for the pronunciation of my name. On April 30th at approximately 11:15 a.m. in my office, I met with Assistant City Manager Tom Modica and my Chief of Staff, City Luna. During that meeting, we discussed the background of the project and highlighted the following concerns with the staff report as presented. So the concerns included the requirement to work with all 88 cities in LA County to identify at-risk populations, getting populations outside the city of Long Beach to the event. And other concerns included stricter language access requirements, that our own established language access policy that contradicted our current language access policy. A requirement to transport every recipient of the Junior Guard with scholarships to and from the events. A requirement to have control over the Partners of Parks funding, unrealistic reporting requirements prior to the event. Also requiring that we collect demographic data on people showing up to the events, for minorities and low-income people, requiring a promoter to show revenue and costs for the event, which is something that we cannot comply with a private entity. I just want to make a note on this ex parte that since this meeting with Assistant City Manager Tom Modica, there were further discussions held between staff and the commission staff that some of these items that were brought forward in my expertise were addressed. I do have some other things that I'd like to discuss, but I'll go ahead and allow that and let this expertise be submitted as final.
Okay. Is anybody else got an ex parte? No. So Commissioner Ranga,
yeah. Could I have that first slide up, the one that shows the actual area that we're talking about? Sorry about that, guys. Got it? Gotta give you a heads up.
Yeah, that?
No, the one with the actual. You see that? Yeah, you see that where it says Alamitos Beach? That's the area. There's a slide that has it focused in on. I think it was the first or second slide in the presentation. Slide 3. There you go. So as you can see, there's quite a bit of distance from even the bike path, from the apartments and condominiums and townhomes, from the big, huge residential area right there in the corner of Alamitos and Ocean, which I think is called Renaissance. The Renaissance building. And so I mean, it's fairly far away from all that. That part of the beach in Long Beach is not really that activated. I mean, there are some uses that go in there. I saw people doing yoga, but it's not one that's used on a daily basis, and on the weekends, you don't see a whole lot of activity in that area. So what the city has done, and which it's planning to do, and it was brought up in the staff report, is to have additional activities in that part of the beach to activate it, to bring more people into Long Beach and to provide them with opportunities for not only visiting the beach, but to get entertainment and other recreational activities as well. So that's one of the things that this event is about. One of the other things that I want to just point out in this application is that Long Beach is 500,000 people, 500,000. It has been described as one of the most diverse cities in the country, with 25% being Hispanic, 25% African American, Asian, whatever. But it's changing, and it's even more so, more diverse than it ever has been in the past. For the first time in its history, there are more people of diversity in the city of Long Beach than Euro-Americans, for lack of a better term. So I mean, I think that one of the conditions here about having to advertise in the greater LA County area, I think is a little bit, it's a stretch. I mean, Long Beach by itself can meet the requirements of having people of diverse backgrounds and social and economic backgrounds, for that matter, attend an event of this nature. So I'm going to make a motion here, but I also want to be given the opportunity to make some amendments if I can. But I'm going to make the motion first, and then we'll take it from there. Would that be the protocol?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Right?
So I move that the commission approve coastal development permit application number 5-19-0246, subject to the conditions set forth in the staff recommendations, and recommend a yes vote.
Second by Brownsy. Okay, we want to continue on.
Okay, we want to continue? Okay, in special condition 5G, there is a condition that requires the applicant get seek financial records from a private company as a state agency, and as a state agency, I think that we would be out of compliance with or out of not compliance, but what would be the word? Well, it would not be correct for a state agency to require a private source to expose their private financial records. So I would think that what we can do, since there is a requirement for some fees going to mitigation, I think that would be the request, is that so for the commission to request how those mitigation funds are being used. So I would like to remove that condition that requires the applicant to report on the total revenues and expenditures of both the 2018 and 2019 public events and paid concerts. And I would like to replace that condition to only require a report on the accounting of the mitigation funds. Would that be appropriate?
That would be your motion. You can certainly make that motion. Would you like me to respond to the purpose and the intention of that condition?
Sure.
Sure. Just very briefly, there are two components to condition 5G, which is on page 11 of your staff reports. The first one requires that the applicant provide the summary of how the expenditures are made for the mitigation monies that we're requiring, and that is part of the increased reporting that we need to ensure that this event this year is successful and that the mitigation is spent appropriately. The second part of that, I believe, is the one of more concern. Requires that the applicant also provide to us the total revenues and expenditures of this event. And the purpose of that is that, again, this is an experiment. We're looking at this as a bit of a pilot project. We had that event last year. Not everything worked out well. There were a few issues. We think we're working those out. But we're also, to expand on what Commissioner Uranga had said earlier, we're right now working with the city on a pending local coastal program amendment to address these sorts of commercial events that are not currently allowed by their LCP, to allow those sorts of events on this beach. And it would expand this sort of program and potentially expand the use of this sort of alternative mitigation measures. So we're really trying to get enough information to fully understand how these are functioning. Are they truly providing for that 75% equivalency in terms of the free seating? And to get that sort of information and understand that, we do feel that we need that information to really understand what we're getting here. And when we see this concert back next year and for the LCP amendments in the future, we're hoping that this information will help us give you better information to make your decision on that.
Okay. I understand that part for the LCP, because that is a City of Long Beach requirement. However, this is a private company that is putting this event forward under the auspices of the City of Long Beach. So I mean, that's where I see the vagueness of having to have financial records of a private company given to the Coastal Commission. So I mean, if it's allowable, well then go for it. But I see there's a little bit of conflict there. But then I'll let maybe it's something that our council can provide in terms of an opinion on that.
I was actually just trying to clarify the scope of your amendment, but I'm not aware of a reason why we couldn't ask for that information. I'm not an expert in privacy law for corporations, but I'm not aware of a reason why that would be prohibited by law. If it were, then the applicants could certainly come in
For us to ask for that. So it would be the end of the story if there were not showing that.
Well, here we go. Is Mr. Dave Myers here? Perhaps you can address that question. Please come to the front. Thank you. So I think you heard my
It was hard to hear back there, actually.
Excuse me?
It was hard to hear back
I'm
there.
sorry.
Actually.
Maybe I should speak closer to the mic.
Yep.
Well, the issue that I brought up was having a public agency such as the Coastal Commission or even the City of Long Beach request public records from a private company such as yours that is putting up an event and providing your records in terms of what you raised or not, and then having to determine whether you've met the conditions as put forward by the Coastal Commission on the city to you in terms of the 75%, 25%.
So my position as a site coordinator, I really can't speak on the accounting or the legality side of that, but we can go back and make a statement if you want. I'm not prepared to speak on that right now, I'm sorry.
Okay. Well, that's fine. But I do want to, again, give kudos to staff for working, keeping an open mind that you are going to at least address this in the future so that we can make sure that in the future, if we have other private entities come to Long Beach wanting to do an event, that it's going to be done based on past practice, which is what we're, like you say, it's a new ground that we're working on here. So we're working on that. Okay. The other concern that I had was on 5H, which is the condition that says about the communities of color, underserved communities in the Long Beach and Greater Long Beach area. I raised this a little earlier. I'm particularly concerned about the following statement. The plan should also include a language access protocol that outlines how materials will be developed in accordance with the city's language access policy, such as translation into non-English languages, including at a minimum Spanish, Tagalog, and Khmer, tailored to a culturally relevant and written in plain language to prevent educational and cultural barriers from participation in events such as this one, free programming. So the only concern that I had with that, I would like to strike that whole part, only because when it deals with the language access program, the language access program in the city of Long Beach is very close and dear to me. I helped write that for the city, and it's a language access program that is specific to the city, not in terms of other general broad activities such as a concert or any other activity or a public event that we have in Long Beach, such as a Grand Prix. So the language access program is very specific to the city of Long Beach. It requires that anybody who wishes to have translation services give the city 24-hour notice that they are going to want language services. So I don't think that this portion of the conditions applies to this event right here. So I would recommend, well, let's go ahead and you're going to address that, because I have an alternate language that I want to propose or you want me to go ahead and produce that first?
Sure. This was one of the points that we had worked with the city on some of the other issues. What we're trying to accomplish, and it could be simpler, we just wanted to add in that they should be consistent with the city's policy on languages. What this is intended to do is, given that there are potential impacts to underserved communities and communities of color, to include signage for the event that would have multiple languages, including the languages that are most common within the Long Beach area. That's really all this is accomplishing.
Okay. So would it be okay if I were to say replace that wording with a where I lost it right here, but in fact they didn't put it here. Arr. Okay. Yeah, I know it's 5H, but it's it got lost in the pages that they gave me here. 5B. Well, let's just say how about to put it as using the language, underserved communities, low-income communities, communities of color, and areas of limited income proficiency. Let me get back to you on that one. Okay, and then one more is a special condition 6, which I would like to eliminate the words underserved and in the greater Long Beach area, and replace it with just marketing and media materials that shall be distributed beyond the city of Long Beach to neighboring underserved communities in the greater Long Beach area, and acknowledge the Coastal Commission's role in providing access to this location. So that would be number 6.
I'm sorry, I didn't quite catch the amendment you wanted there. Can you
The
repeat that?
to strike the words underserved and in the greater Long Beach area from that sentence. From marketing and media materials shall be distributed to underserved communities in the greater Long Beach area and acknowledge the Coastal Commission's role. Strike those words and just keep it broader. Let me
Sure.
find-
Can I just address this very quickly?
Sure.
So with regards to the specific language, I think it may help to look at the addendum. It's on page 5 of the addendum. We struck out in the greater Los Angeles area because the city was concerned about that language, and said, and other appropriate local communities. But I think the greater kind of issue we were trying to address is that this is a beach that is right at the end of the blue line. It is easily accessible by public transit. And, it connects the downtown Long Beach area to the city of Los Angeles. It has neighboring communities in Wilmington, Compton. It's easily accessible by those communities. And so the intent of these conditions is to, focus the efforts of these programs and the benefits of these programs on populations that don't readily access the beach, because they would likely be the ones that would be disproportionately impacted by the proposed development.
And
I found the language that I was looking for.
And just to add, of course, we have struck the language Greater Los Angeles area has been struck already in the staff recommendation. So it sounds the remaining language that you were concerned about is the underserved communities. And of course, that could be changed and struck. The intent, though, of course, was we would like the media outreach to extend to just such communities in order to provide for the mitigation. But again, that is your decision.
Yeah. The verbiage that I found is the permittees shall work with the City of Long Beach and local community-based organizations to identify diverse communities and stakeholders in the City of Long Beach. The final public engagement plan shall be submitted to the Executive Director for review and written approval. I think that's one of the things that you wanted to include in there. So if we could replace it with that wording, I think we're great.
Sorry, I think, so you went back to 5H, just to be clear?
Oh, sorry, 5H, yeah.
5H, okay. And I'm sorry, could you read that sentence again?
The
change?
permittees shall work with the City of Long Beach and local community-based organizations to identify diverse communities and stakeholders in the city of Long Beach. The final public engagement plan shall be submitted to the executive director for review and written approval.
That's in lieu of those.
That's in lieu of the other wording that's already there.
Okay.
The language access policy. That
Right.
Sure, so that would effectively delete the language, the requirement that they incorporate a language access policy? Sure.
Appreciate it.
So we will be happy, we can just incorporate that into our staff recommendation. I think that would make things simpler.
Yeah.
Okay, so we do,
We don't need
so
a real
incorporate
amendment
that.
on We can just, you guys can
You just
make-
change it.
Yeah, you won't need an amendment, we will incorporate that into special condition 5H.
And then on paragraph 6,
Paragraph 6,
you wanted to change.
just strike the,
Already changed it.
just strike the words underserved and in the greater Long Beach, Los Angeles area.
So marketing and media materials shall be distributed
Yeah,
beyond
Long-
the city of Long Beach.
Right. To neighboring underserved communities
And,
and acknowledge Coastal Commission, Coastal Commission's role in providing public access at this location.
Okay, and just a point of clarification, so Greater Los Angeles area has already been struck from the recommendation, so you would just be deleting the word underserved in front of communities. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, and if that's, if that appears to be the will of the commission, we incorporate that into our staff recommendation for simplicity.
I don't think anyone has a problem.
Okay. Appreciate it. So those are that's my motion with the amendments.
Okay.
Well, so at this point, there's no need for an amending motion. The staff has incorporated your concerns into the staff recommendation, so it could just be a straight vote.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, Commissioner Nuevino.
I'm sorry, for purposes of clarification, can you point me to the page or the paragraph where you're striking the word underserved?
Oh, a page.
That would be condition 6. That would be page either 12, let's see,
It's page 12.
page 12, yeah.
Oh, no, it's page 11 on the 12.
What's 11 to 12? It's
It's on 12.
So if I could assist, it's on page 12, the sixth line down from the top of the page. That line begins underserved communities. The word underserved would be struck.
As well as in the greater Los Angeles area, which is already stopped.
I just, with all due respect to Commissioner Uranga, I understand that Long Beach is a very diverse community, but given the recent adoption of our environmental justice policy, I want to make sure that we're consistent with the goals that sets forth, which is to include all underserved communities in terms of our efforts to ensure access. So I just want to make sure we're being consistent. And maybe Commissioner Sanders could weigh in.
If it helps, I'm not going to have a heartbreak over that. But I do wish to strike the greater Long Beach, the greater Los Angeles area. I think that goes beyond.
All right, thank you. So then, to clarify then, the only change to special condition 6 to be incorporated into our staff recommendations would be the striking of greater Los Angeles area. That change is already made pursuant to the amendment, so there would be no effective changes to special condition 6. But we would be modifying special condition 5H pursuant to the discussion that we just had. Oh, and, sorry, 5G? Oh, I'm sorry, it is just the changes to 5H that we just discussed.
Right, okay. So now, Vice Chair Padilla.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a quick clarifying question. Forgive me if I didn't get it out of the report the first time or the dialogue, but in the staff recommendation and the special conditions, with respect to the area of the festival that's the stadium music festival component of it, approximately 16% of the available seating in the stadium for the exclusive music event is going to be given free, with the balance, the remaining percentage will be paid admission. And then it wasn't clear with respect to the overall festival as a whole, for the totality, as to where we ended up. And the report indicates that the guidance on 75-25 wasn't feasible but how do we assess where the balance of everything worked out in terms of percentages overall? Thank you.
Of course. And again, this is looked at as it's a bit of a pilot project, and this is exactly why we were requesting that financial information about the event. There's really two ways to assess how do we try to meet this 75% equivalency and what that exactly means. One way, of course, would be to simply take the ticket price. We could do that with simple math and figure out if the ticket price is X, so we need X in mitigation. We would like that additional financial information to really get down to what's the net gross of this. That would be helpful for the future. What we did here, though, was a different take. We're looking at equivalent hours and equivalent hours of activities and public events, and that's why it was important to us of how well attended those different events are, how successful the outreach is. Now, there's additional mitigation on top of that, and that includes, so there's $1.5 million that's being offered now in these funding for the additional public access and recreational activities that are part of this event. In addition to that $1.5 million of events, there is in addition to the $1.5 million of events, there's $150,000 on top of that, and that goes towards all these additional programs, and that is really difficult to really assess towards that 75% equivalency, but it will be going towards some very, what I think are very beneficial programs, and I think that's the difficulty in trying to come up with the straight mathematical formula, and why we're really looking to get additional reporting and information so that we can bring that back to you as part of that future LCP amendment.
Okay, so that I understand it sort of in sum, is instead of upfront requiring that 75% as part of the special conditions be free and 25 not, and trying to parse that out within the framework of the conditions around the permit, we're sort of acknowledging a couple of things, that it's hard to verify that post-event, and that's the earlier discussion about who deposits what and who discloses what and how do we track that, which is obviously difficult to assess. But then the answer, I guess, also is that there's mitigation for programmatic mitigation specifically tied to this event, that even if we ended up at the end of the day with something shy of the guidance, we know that we're mitigating. Okay, that's just making sure that I understand.
That's right. It's that flexible approach, and that's also why we increased the days of the free events from 5 to 7 from last year to try to reach that sort of equivalency.
Okey doke. So I think we have a motion and a second, correct? Is there any unwillingness for unanimous yes on the motion? Seeing none, no objection, seeing no objection, the motion passes.
Great. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. I'm sorry to make you stand there that whole time. All right, well, I guess rather than shifting over to another region, we should just go back